Anyway, enough about me. Anyway, so hello, Central Illinois. This is Renee Haraney. I'm your host of Peoria Professional, and today I'm welcoming back my special guest, Dodie Gomer. Dodie is a talent builder, and she helps people, with their careers, but also their lives, right, Dodie?
Yes.
And today she has a really special message about how we can create a legacy, which might sound a little intimidating, but anybody can do this even in the very beginning of your career. And Dodie, I just can't wait for you to share exactly what people can do and what some other people have been doing so far, and your ideas of what this means, how changing our mindset helps us create a legacy.
So imagine you're being toasted. It's at the end of your role, end of that position, and somebody is going to hold up a glass, and you're going to hear that crystal clink. And what is it they're going to say about you? And I want to step back for just a second. I want you to just define, where are you in your career? Because some of us may define first third of my career. Maybe in the last 5 to 7 years, I graduated from a technical program, or from college, or from a master's program. Second third is, no, I've got some things under my belt. I've accomplished, I've finished one role, I'm on to the next role. Final third is many years of experience, decades, and now I'm starting to design the horizon of retirement. So put yourself in one of those segments, first, second, or third of your career. You still could be recognized where somebody is going to toast you. And that's what you want. You want people to talk about what it is that you accomplished, and then allow them to recognize you. Now, not everyone gets a champagne flute. Not everyone gets even a coffee cup. But you want to know that you have left a legacy in what you've just, the role you've just finished. And what is that legacy? So it's the first, third, second, and third part of the career. And the ones that are in the first part of their career, the first third, they may say, wait a minute, Dodie, I'm not supervising anyone, I'm not managing a budget, so what are you talking about? Well, I know of a environmental health and safety professional. She was out of college 3 months, on her roll less than 90 days, and she wrote an article on laser safety. So you can imagine how the other professionals that graduated 8 years before, 15 years, 20 years, their educational experience is not anywhere near what she got to have. Because laser safety and laser technology has changed so much. She wrote this article and she started this conversation. She got the conversation going. So even though she'd only been on the job for 90 days, she had some education combined with some recent experience that others appreciated. It was state of the art. And I think that's what the mindset change is. No matter where you are in your career, you have an opportunity to share information and to get a conversation going.
Right. For free in many cases.
Yes.
Yes.
And in today's world, it doesn't cost you anything unless you have to pay someone to edit your writing. Maybe you have the grammar and punctuation issue going on. It doesn't even cost much to get that done.
Right.
So, right. And I really think you don't have to limit yourself to think, oh no, I'm new in my career. They're supposed to be orientating me. Get rid of that mindset and start thinking, no, I have some things that others need to know and I want to share. And I think that environmentalist lives down south now, southwest. She started that right out of the gate.
Very smart. So I think that where we are, our environment, the people we surround ourselves with, has a massive impact on what we're doing and how we're thinking about things. And listening to information like this from people like you, I mean, not that there is other people like you, you are one of a kind, but, it's educating yourself and just always staying up on things and changing the way we look at things, that personal development aspect, because I know I can think back to like my very first job out of college many years ago. I was working in an ad agency, and the environment there was awful, and it was just trying to keep your head above water and keep the owners from hating you because they just automatically hated anyone who wasn't a part of the family, But anyway, the point is that I I wasn't thinking along these lines. But also, I think we didn't have the internet yet back then. There weren't these opportunities to write articles on LinkedIn or post on Medium or even to do videos. Right now, anybody can use Facebook Live like we're using right now. There's so many opportunities. So what you're doing is you're telling people, hey, take advantage of these opportunities. Take your career or your business into your own hands.
Right.
Is this what I'm hearing?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
How are we going to do this?
And so I like the word what, just to keep the 4 points really focused. The W is to write. And again, if you work for an organization, you might have to check with public affairs. You want to make sure you don't share proprietary. And you can give them all the hints. You don't want to make it controversial. But to share some new technology, to share a new idea, to get a conversation going, write. Even if you don't like to write, you can find an editor that'll shape it up. Keep it brief. Get the conversation going. The second is really unique. It's the H, and that is host. I know of a local leader that is an engineer, and for many years she has hosted a brunch in her home in January for Society of Women Engineers. Now, she didn't wait for somebody to offer her a budget. She didn't wait to have a company host it. She took the initiative. The conversation that happens around that egg casserole and those cinnamon rolls was not all technical. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I'm not an engineer. It was a lot of fun. That has been going on for decades. So does it surprise you she ends up being the local chapter president and then years later becomes the national president of Society of Women Engineers? It doesn't surprise me. She has learned so much from that community of women engineers.
Yeah.
That it is, and they have learned from being at that brunch because then they stay connected.
Right.
So host, and the mindset change, and I love it that you came up with that word, the mindset change, is you don't have to wait for a budget. Oh, well, no. The local restaurants and coffee houses, there's a place you can use the library, host a local professional organization right here. It doesn't cost you a dime.
Okay, my head's exploding.
Yes. Yeah.
I must speak.
Yes.
Okay, so the first thing that I thought of was that with that woman hosting this event, she may or may not have had the type of personality or the type of gift where what she could possibly have been doing is, it's hard to say, I don't know her, but using her own gifts to advance her career in a way that wasn't traditional.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, if she was the type of person who was a little more extroverted, but she's in an environment with people who might be a little more introverted, she took her extroversion and played up the advantages of that, right? Or, maybe creativity in an analytical environment, those sorts of things. The other thing that I was thinking just escaped me. So let's escape.
No, it's the role model.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's what you're thinking, but she clearly became a role model for others thinking, oh, I could never host something in my home, and I'm not a good cook, and I'm not. But she let somebody else do it, but be the one to gather people. And think of it as your own community.
Yeah. So I was thinking, like, what if she, this probably isn't the case, but what if she felt like intimidated by people with more seniority, by people that she perceived as being more intelligent, more successful, or whatever, and she felt like maybe she didn't even feel like she could write an article like the other woman you referred to,
Right.
but she maybe had a nice home and felt like, hey, I could do this. This is something that no one else is doing in this area. There's a need, there's values, just a different sort of value, other than what you might traditionally think that you need to bring to the office Monday through Friday. That's what I was trying to get at.
Right. And then try to get rid of doubt by playing off the idea to people that are already successful. People with high energy, that are positive, that are delivering results, and say, here's my idea. And they might say, they may counter it and say, oh, that sounds like it might be too, is it inclusive enough? Should we broaden it so that other people can come? Maybe it needs to be in more of a public arena. Maybe it needs to be at a coffee house instead of your home. You live out in the country because of the roads, whatever. But yeah, so play it off 2 or 3 people and get their feedback. Say, I want your feedback. People love to give their opinion.
Oh yeah, right, exactly. Okay, WH, what's A?
So you want to write, you want to host, and then attend. So this is the different mindset, is you may have to cough up some money to attend or belong to a professional organization. And many times people are waiting for their company to pay for that membership. And what is the membership cost? For sometimes it's $75 a year, $450 a year, $500 a year, and that just seems like a lot of money. In contrast, we put out a lot of money for our formal education. You want it sustained. And every time you go to a local or a regional or a national meeting, and you may even pay money for that. So just set a goal for the next 5 years. I'm going to set so much money aside for my own professional development so that I can attend a local meeting or a regional or a national meeting. And by the way, if you get involved with those meetings, sometimes there's some financial support if you become an officer.
Oh, sure.
So there's ways around it. And if you've put that money away and then for some reason your company says, I'll pay you to go, then maybe sponsor someone else to go.
Oh, yeah,
And
another mind shift.
I just
Yeah.
saw that out in Portland, Oregon for this national, it was a meeting just on women's in leadership, but different companies are sponsoring those that can't afford it right now. And so there were 5 or 6 people there at this conference in Portland that somebody else sponsored. It's just a different mindset, but attend. You can't develop with just your desk and your local workers.
Right.
It has to be broader than that. And when you start meeting people at large meetings, you're going to meet people that come from a different background. So what you learn on those coffee breaks, at lunch, at breakfast, is going to be just as strong as what you learn from the speakers. Yeah, you can dial into the meeting, but what happens in between is a lot of richness.
Right. So I worked for corporations.
Yeah.
And in that environment, before I was an entrepreneur, in that corporate environment, if things came up, I needed, some sort of tool, or I wanted to go somewhere, or have some subscription to something, it was always, well, go to your supervisor and get approval. And if it was yes, yay. And
Right.
if it was no, oh, grumbling, right? Even if it was just to myself, or that was the environment that we were in. And once I became an entrepreneur, that all shifted because there was no supervisor to go to
Right.
give you permission to get
Right.
anything.
Right.
And yet you really quickly see the value of getting these things,
Yes.
and you're happy, to pay for, this conference to go to, or, pay for your website or whatever the case may be. But it's that mind shift, and so a lot of people who are in a corporate environment, as an example, they maybe haven't been an entrepreneur yet.
Right.
And they don't know this. And so it's brilliant that you are sharing this with people, because it can totally change. If they pay $500, make one $500 investment, and they go and they meet somebody that they build a relationship with, and 2 years later, they happen to have been downsized.
Right.
That $500 is priceless.
Right.
If that
Right.
person and that relationship they built, and they connected them to somebody else, and they got another job, a better job probably, without all that stress.
So if you think about getting involved in a professional organization and you start taking on an officer role, you're actually delivering results. So you've actually created that legacy just in that organization, right? And so you're being toasted by them, saying, oh, the regional conference went so well because of Renee. Thank you very much. So you don't see it as oh, my job got eliminated. You already know there are opportunities because people have already talked about you.
Right.
Right?
And we've never made any distinctions in our conversations between how this works for men or women or anything. But out on the internet, there's a lot of talk about women who feel that they can't get as far in corporate America as men. Okay. But what you're suggesting they do, if they go use a professional organization, become an officer, yada, 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 they can really advance their career and their fulfillment in life,
Right.
too, by doing these things, and by, getting toasted for something that maybe they couldn't have accomplished under the supervisor that they're under.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like the current structure of the environment where they work in, Monday through Friday, but they've taken the initiative to do something else, which then could also lead, when they've had that success and been toasted, in that professional organization could lead to a promotion or another job opportunity.
Right.
The possibilities are endless, right?
Right. And the same engineer that I'm talking about that holds the brunch, she invited me to join Society of Women Engineers when I became an HR manager for electrical engineers. And yeah, I said, you do know I'm not. No, she said, I think you, and I cannot tell you how much I learned. She said, I think you'll learn a lot about our mindset and what we're working on and what's coming around the bend. And I learned a great deal. And then I took advantage of that lesson, that role model, later in my life. I joined the Society of Manufacturing Engineers. Now, I wasn't going to get my supervisor, my manager, or my VP to sign off for me, an HR professional, join SME. But I did it myself. And again, I learned a great deal about lean manufacturing, et cetera.
Right.
But I also, the community was broad. So I think people need to think outside the box. They might say, well, that organization doesn't exist in my community. Well, make it exist. Create your own community of professionals
Sure.
that make a difference. So those are the WHA: write, host, attend, and then the T stands for talk. And I'm going to talk about another individual that was 2 years into her job post graduation, but 90 days or maybe less than 6 months on her current role. She got relocated down south, and she was asked to pick up a group of executives from the airport in the company van. Now, someone else might have thought, great, I get to be the driver. You know what kind of education I've had. She didn't see that at all because she knew that setting a vision and talking about her initiatives was really important. She also knew that most people didn't understand some of the environmental impacts on the bottom line or the good of the earth, right? And she asked, can I take them around the perimeter of the facility and just give them a briefing of some of my environmental projects? Sure. She created a trifold brochure.
What?
I mean,
I love this woman.
You do not have to be a graphic designer, but they do it much better, by the way. The Owens
Sure.
Group in Chillicothe does it for me. But she created a trifold brochure, color, and then when they got on the van, she said, let me just allow you to see some of the importance of these projects, not only on our bottom line, but on the earth. And as she drove them around the perimeter of the building, they were
Blown away.
Well, first of all, it was high level. It wasn't detail. It wasn't in environmental speak. But talk about, so when somebody says, so what's new? You don't say, well, I had oatmeal for breakfast. No, what's new? Oh, I'm working on this project. Oh, and I'm hosting I got some feedback on this article on laser safety. When you talk, have it be of value because people learn from you. And so I guess the mindset is try not to think about yourself, about how there isn't a budget for you to join the organization, there isn't a budget for you to attend. Start thinking about enlightening other people. So write, host, attend, and when you talk, know that it's going to be of value.
Well, I love that. It was so enlightening as well as easy to understand. We all know what.
Right.
Sometimes these acronyms that people come up with are CCFP, or whatever, and it's like, what?
Right.
So that's brilliant. I love all that. If you were to give someone advice, if they felt like, okay, well, that's a lot for me to do, what would be the first step that you would tell them to take?
Well, if you need another acronym, probably not as good as what, but it's call to action maybe.
Okay.
And create a leadership legacy. Create your own leadership legacy. And I don't have something for the CALL, but it basically just to remind you, find someone in your life that will hold you accountable. In the process of reading this book called Team Up by Pete Lakaitis, and I think in your professional life, find someone that will hold you accountable to see how are you doing at one of those 4 things, just one of them. Make a goal. I'm going to write an article. I'm going to write a blog about this area of technical. I'm going to share some information. Or your goal is to host. I'm going to host at least one small group discussion. So here's another thing that the engineers came up with. Instead of a book club, they have an article club. They
Oh.
take a technical article that everyone reads, it's no more than a page and a half, and then they grab a cup of coffee and they talk through, what did you think of that article, Renee? Hey, well, what are you going to take that? Hey, what do you think needs to be done? So people don't have time to read a whole book, but they do an article. So
Love that.
yeah. So if you get an accountability partner, that's the one thing I'd like people to think about, so that you've written a goal for yourself to either write, to host, or attend, or change the way you talk about something of value, that people will become different because of you, that people will become interested. So we all know we have to recycle at work, but because of the way you talked about it, you now have gotten rid of plastic bottles and you carry your sports bottle on vacation with you when you
Right.
travel for business. And it's because of the way that person was speaking to me one day as I was coming in for work. They said, "So how do you recycle it on vacation?" Never thought about it. Recycling the plastic bottles is probably not good enough anymore, right? They said, "Well, have you ever thought about taking your sports bottle on vacation?" So I'm digressing a little bit.
No,
But it's
I get
how
it.
do you talk about your expertise when somebody says, "What's new?"
Yes.
So get somebody to hold you accountable. You don't want to do all four things. You've got your job to do. But make a goal. I'm a writer, so I'm going to write an article.
Yeah, the accountability is
Yes.
huge. And no matter what habit you want to change or what you want to, anything you want to change in your life. So whether you want to change your eating habits or you want to get more sleep, whatever it may
Right.
be, the exercise, because it's hard to change those habits. It's hard to go from that sounds like a great idea, Dodie, to actually implementing it the next day.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So I was reading the book Triggers.
Haven't read it.
Okay. The author's last name is Goldsmith. I can't remember his first name, but
Oh, yeah.
this really stood out to me is because he was talking about the triggers regarding changing habits, and it was all about accountability and everything. And so he said he for years has been paying a woman to call him at 10 p.m. every single night so that he has a list of 5 questions. Did I do my best today at,
Right.
whether it was writing for his next book or exercise or eating healthy or whatever. And it was just, did I do my best today?
Right.
And then he would, on a scale of 1 to 10, he would evaluate that day. He's been doing this for years.
Right.
And he pays somebody. That's
Right.
the thing. Because we've all heard people say, hey, find an accountability partner. Well, sometimes then there's that feeling with an accountability partner of, let's say you and I are becoming accountability partners and you slack. Next thing you know, I'm slacking or
Right.
vice versa. But this other woman is not his accountability, partner in a sense. She's being paid to call him and just hold him accountable. And I thought that was brilliant. I had never thought of it that way,
Right.
but that's a mind shift.
It
right?
is a mind shift. And so what the irony of this is, when I was out in Portland, I left everyone with this call to action, create a leadership legacy by getting an accountability partner. And it went over really well. I got some feedback on it. And 24 hours later, I literally stumble across the book by Pete Makaitis on Team Up. And he wrote it while he was in college at U of I. And he doesn't know that I have found his book yet, but as students, they held each other accountable. And let's face it, if you're my accountability partner and I say I'm going to write every day for 30 minutes, and you call me on every Wednesday, and you say, well, how did Monday go? And I say, well, I was too busy. And you say, really? I saw you on Facebook for about an hour, right? I mean, I know you're going to ask me that question. So I'm going to get my writing done every day. Well, I wrote for 45 minutes on Tuesday. No, it doesn't count. Monday, 30 minutes, Doug, right? And I really do think it's important to have a...
Can I see that?
Absolutely. And find your accountability partner.
Okay,
Find
let me.
one that you
Do you care if I
trust.
read this?
No,
Okay, still got a couple minutes. Okay, call. Create a leadership legacy. Find one person as your accountable leadership partner. Describe how you want your legacy to be defined. What will be different because of your legacy? Exchange contact information. Commit to a schedule. Find a way to share with others that the success that you and your accountable partner create. Okay, so I have to make a comment about this. Okay, the actual creation of this little card.
Right,
It looks very nice. It's very professional.
right.
It is unique, right? and it's cost effective.
Right.
I love that.
It's not my business card.
No, but
Yeah, right.
it's still cost effective. You know,
Right.
so I mean, we can get cards like this made for very, very inexpensive.
Right.
But you took the time to think this all out and create it, and then the thoughtfulness of sharing it. So, you know, people will remember you by this because I have hundreds of business cards that people have given me. I don't have anything like this that anyone has given me. You know, so it's another way of standing out. Another one of those like easy things that people can do. You know, if someone was in their, you know, first or second stage of their career, like you were talking about,
Right.
and they created something like this pertinent to what they do,
Right.
they would stand out. They
Right.
could even get a higher, you know, evaluation from, you know, the next time they're evaluated.
Right. I can't take credit for it. The content I was preparing for Portland, and my son Kevin was home, and he said, you know, Mom, I wouldn't put an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper in my pocket. And he said, no one cares, even the women don't even carry purses big enough for an 8.5 by 11. Make it the size of a business card. And then it was Owen's design group out of Chillicothe that said, hey, let's take a design to it so it keeps to your brand. So then
Yeah.
they took it a step further, which it went over really well in Portland
I'll
at the
bet.
National. So the National Association of Environmental Managers is an organization that listens to their participants, and they wanted every other year a Women in Leadership conference, and it's going strong. So I guess that's another mind shift change. When you become involved, you're able to get feedback, and organizations shift because of you.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
the growth is, but yeah, this is just to keep it focused. So find your accountability partner and make it a routine, make it a mindset.
Well, regardless of whose idea or how many
Yeah.
people, and I think the best ideas are when it's more than one person, you know?
Right, right.
So
Absolutely,
anyway, very
absolutely.
cool. Dodie, you're the best. I just adore you. I think that you are an absolute treasure to, especially the people in the Peoria area, you know, because you're here. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know you're traveling all over the country and probably all over the world someday soon, probably. But you're just amazing, and I thank you so much for being here and sharing your insights with us. You make it so easy to understand and easy to implement. You know, I think everyone who has watched this, thank you to watching. I know is easy to listen to Dodie, but people need inspiration. We can't rely on the business that we work for or the government or
No,
anything. We have to
no.
take things into our own hand, and you are very inspirational and leading by example.
Well,
You
thank
know,
you, Renee.
so
Thank
it's
you.
been
Thank
an
you.
absolute pleasure having you here again. You know, and anyway.
Well, think
So-
of your legacy because of the Peoria Life. I mean, what you have done for professionals. That's a legacy. So cheers to you.
Oh, thank you so much. But like I said, collaboration. Tim's over there being
Right.
really quiet. This is his baby.
Yeah, right?
You know.
Right.
But anyway, so thank you for watching, and check out Dodie, and she's got more information on dodiegomer.com, which is very helpful. And we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.
PeoriaLife.com